Hunt for the Fallen Star. Chapter 18. Morning on the Moon. Rays of the local star pierced the front view screens and revealed a thick fog hugging the lowlands. Overhead, the sky was reddish blue. A short distance away, the formerly smoldering spacecraft now lay in a cold heap. Backlit by the rising star, the wreck looked like a ghost ship floating on a sea of fog. Closer to the fallen star, where the fog wasn't as thick, ice balls melted amid wisps of vapor. "Definitely not jungle weather," said Casey. "No." James walked towards the center console and looked towards the crash site. "But the good news is, I think we can explore that wreck today. And maybe we can melt some ice for water," said Casey. An involuntary shiver shook Layla. "We should wait before trudging through the ice. Unless either of you have some winter gear hidden in those packs, I'm really not fond of cold." "No," said Casey, shaking his head slightly. "A rain poncho is the best I have. But it'll probably melt quickly now that the local sun is rising," said James. "Still, it might be afternoon before we're not wading through ice." Heather's voice drifted into the room. "Anyone else hungry and thirsty?" Casey turned back to see Heather walk into the room. Her brown hair was tangled and matted. Like the others, her clothes were dirty and wrinkled. Evidence of dust crusted her face and arms. He smiled at her and was about to say something when she interrupted. "Don't say it." Heather's palm rose and her tangled hair wiggled as she head. "I know, I look terrible. But with all the camping and hiking we've done, it's not the first time you've seen me this way." "I was only going to say that you look the way I feel," admitted Casey. "As for food," said James, "we have our breakfast appetizer of a quarter granola bar each, followed by the main course of another quarter granola bar. But we should have plenty to drink." "Let's use up the water in my pack first," said Casey. "Then I'll go fill it with ice." Within a short time, the granola bars were divided and finished off. When the water was finished, Casey excused himself and walked to the back of the ship where he lowered the ramp. Frigid air snaked up the ramp and into Casey's clothes, sending shivers through his body. Walking down the ramp, he wished he had more than lightweight jungle khakis. At the bottom of the ramp, a thin layer of water and mud lay under the ship. The muddy soil was reclaiming the footprints and filling them in. The remains of several hailstones, which had rolled under the edge of the ship before the shields were applied, were strewn around the mud. Hail was piled along the edge of the shields around the perimeter of the ship. Outside of the shields, a mist danced in slow motion over the frozen and soggy ground. Casey called up into the ship. "Could somebody turn off the shielding?" A moment later, the icy wall collapsed, and ice balls rolled and sloshed. Warm, moist air tinted with cold streaks swept under the ship. Standing on the end of the ramp, Casey reached out and used his hands to dig a small hole in the mud. Water immediately filled the void. He removed the cap from the water bladder and placed the filling hole into the water. Icy water poured into the water container while thoughts of the night distracted Casey's mind. "Beautiful, isn't it?" The water bladder jumped and Casey jerked around. Heather stood behind him, her mischievous smile revealing her pleasure at startling him. "I didn't think I could sneak up on you," said Heather. At exhale of relief escaped Casey's lungs. "Guess I need to pay attention more." He dipped the bladder back into the water to finish filling. "And yes, it is beautiful in a cold, deserty sort of way." Heather crouched beside Casey. "How'd you sleep?" "When I did, I think I slept okay, but it's been a bit stressful." The right corner of Heather's mouth lifted teasingly. "Just a bit?" "Okay, so it's definitely more stressful than any pilot check ride I've ever taken. So what's bothering you?" Casey's eyes closed for a moment, then opened to look at Heather. "Besides stranding myself, brother, our best friend, and Layla on the other side of the galaxy, with no idea how to get home. Oh, and just about getting everyone killed a couple of times. Not much." Heather's eyes softened. "Casey, we've been friends for years, and I can tell something else is bothering you." "Wondering is more like it." "About?" "It's more an An uneasiness, like we won't be able to find our way back to Earth. No, I believe we'll find our way back. We came here. There must be a way back. No, there's something else. I had a similar feeling before we jumped across the galaxy and things went crazy. Heather's brows creased. You didn't say anything about that. It didn't seem important. It wasn't a feeling of doom or anything like that. Just some feeling something doesn't feel right. When did the uneasiness start? Casey stared across the piles of hailstones and into the foggy mist. I think it may have started after our close encounter of the aliens trying to kill us kind. But it's definitely increased since last night. You don't have any idea why? No. More like a suspicion. Of what? I am not sure. Casey turned to Heather. It's like I'm trying to describe a 5,000-piece puzzle, what a 5,000-piece puzzle looks like, with only a few pieces and no idea what the picture is supposed to be. Don't you think it's odd that we ended up at this abandoned planet or moon only to get attacked by pirate-like aliens? Why were they here? It was a bit of an inconvenience. And what about the one that got away? Maybe we should have killed it as well. Heather shook her head. No, you did the right thing. I think your dad would have been proud that you did no more killing than you needed to. Casey's hand felt numb. He looked down and saw the batter was full. He pulled it out of the small water hole and screwed the cap on. Heather, I won't admit this to my brother, and I trust you to keep it in confidence. Heather nodded reassuringly. Blowing up spaceship is one thing. I don't have much of an issue with that. But I don't think I can kill someone face to face, especially if the person, the alien, looks human. Well, so far you haven't needed to, and hopefully it doesn't come to that. Also, before I came to the dig, I visited Mom. She asked me to promise to take care of James and you. A warm smile lit Heather's face. I love your mom. She's awesome. But it's probably not easy being the oldest when you get that kind of responsibility. Sometimes I wonder what Mom would say if she knew what happened and where we are. She'd probably say, Kendrick, Sinad, Hawkins, you're doing better than you think you are. You've got great gifts to match the energy of your heart. Trust yourself to do the right thing. And then she'd be happy you'd kept us safe. Casey grinned. Yeah, she does like to use my full name to make a point. Let's hope that trend keeps going. A shiver shook Heather, and she stood up. For now, let's get back inside and warm up. A couple hours passed before most of the hail melted, and the ground had sufficiently absorbed the water. Patches of ice clumps, surrounded by shallow pools, littered the drying ground. During their wait, Casey and James assessed their backpacks and topped off the water bladders with melting ice. James checked his handgun and secured his crystal disc in his necklace. Casey found a couple of squished and forgotten protein bars at the bottom of his pack, and the decision was made to save them for later. The curious gun Casey had found occupied some of their time. After James picked out more encrusted dirt and discovered a couple of recessed buttons, Casey decided to take the gun outside. James's forehead furrowed as he followed Casey down the ramp. Do you really think it might work? Casey shrugged. This ship, after being in a pyramid for centuries, flew and brought us here. True enough. Casey gripped the gun and pointed it at a pile of slush just beyond the ship. Without a trigger, he squeezed the handle and pushed buttons in different sequences without any success. He passed the gun to James, whose experiments also failed. Heather stepped off the ramp. My turn. With a doubtful shrug, James handed the gun to Heather. She gripped the handle, aimed, and squeezed. Nothing. After a few more failed attempts, she whacked the butt of the grip against the palm of her other hand and grinned when the thumb rest emitted a faint red glow. She timidly squeezed the finger and thumb buttons simultaneous. There was a nearly imperceptible hiss, and the slush pile blew apart with an explosion of ice. James's hands flew up in surprise. Whoa! That works! I barely heard it, Heather said sheepishly, and it didn't kick at all. I wonder what the second barrel is for, asked Casey, or does it just shoot those dart things out of each barrel? I say we experiment more later, said James. We know it works, and it could be useful. No sense wasting any more of the darts. I think it's time we check out that wreck. End of chapter.